This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. If you're ready to see the rest of the world just as clearly, get your fresh perspective at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIX.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybylo here from the Campus Quarter Studios. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Finally.
Yes.
Some good news to talk about for Oklahoma. We got Bob now. We're going to be talking about the men, the women's side of things. They're waiting. They're ready for the NCAA tournament. Going to be finding out who's coming to Norman with Oklahoma. Expected to be a, let's say, top 4 seed, but I think they kind of solidified their top 3 seed with what they were able to do getting to the semifinals of the SEC Tournament, losing to the champion, South Carolina. I think that there's going to be a lot of people in the month of March to go, yeah, we got to wherever, and then we got beat by South Carolina, but good run for them. We'll catch up with George here in a second, but coming off of maybe the biggest win of the season. If you take out the baby, it was the biggest win of the season. 76-72 victory over Texas, Bob. Before we get to that, though, everybody sees it. He has the Roback hoodie, or not hoodie, but pullover on. Our good friends over at Roback. If you are interested in getting some apparel for the upcoming spring, we got a little bit of a fake spring here today in Norman. Use the code right here, Sooner20, 20% off of Roback for all of your needs. Best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear, everyday shorts, which will be used here very much so. I'm sure that you saw some everyday shorts out at Love's Field this weekend. Nice win for the OU softball team. 3-game sweep over South Carolina. We can catch up with that for the stickball report. But once again, if you're interested in getting some Roback, use the promo code Sooner20 for 20% off. I know George and I have done it. You got it on right now. Bob, looking good. Carrie included, Bob, for the YouTube commenters, I'm being told through my ear with Carrie Burdock. But what a win. What a win down in Austin. Oklahoma extends, I guess their hopes of making the NCAA tournament kind of almost solidifies. We'll see.
Oh, boy.
It'll go a long way. We'll go a long way. We're going to get into all of that, but a fantastic win. Let's just start here from being able to execute down the stretch. Things got tight. Things got really tight. Missing 3 of the last 4 free throws, but Bryson Goodine with a big free throw to kind of ice it, and a good win for Oklahoma, 76-72.
To do that without Sam Godwin was so impressive, and you just give credit to Glenn Taylor, Luke Northweather. They didn't do as much in the second half, but they kept that team afloat in the first half when Jeremiah Fears, Jalen Moore were really struggling. They needed somebody or a couple people to kind of pick up the slack, and that's exactly what they did. I mean, Luke Northweather scores 10 points without making a three-pointer.
Unbelievable.
That just sounds nuts.
Unbelievable. 6 players in double figures for Oklahoma, led by Bryson Goodine. Jeremiah Fears, 13 points, but didn't shoot the ball well. 2 for 14 from the field. It was not a good night for
Still better than Trey Johnson.
For the true freshman, Trey Johnson, 0 for 14 on the other side of things, but he did go 9 for 10 from the free throw line. Oklahoma was fantastic for the most part from the free throw line, 22 and 28. It was something that I had not realized until listening to some of the post-game stuff. I mean, this is going to turn out to be the best free throw shooting team in the history of Oklahoma basketball, which is kind of ironic considering all the games that they've lost late because of some free throws.
Yeah, missing 3 of those 4. I think they were 19 to 22 at one point. And, you mentioned Fears. Biggest play of the season might have been that pass to Goodine for that 3.
Sure.
Make it 73-67. Bryson comes up. It wasn't quite a dagger, but, man, that was like a sigh of relief. You finally stretched it. It was funny. As soon as he hits that, they put largest lead of the night. That's how close that game was the entire way. No team could separate. You were just one possession here or there for all 40 minutes.
Jalen Moore, a quiet night, all things considered. 10 points, 7 rebounds. That was a team high in 29 minutes, though. That was maybe the biggest number for me, the 29 minutes that you're continuing to play and battle on that knee injury.
Yeah, it wasn't offensively. It was the rebounds. I believe he only had 2 at halftime. He's going to have to pick that up. And you're talking about how you pick up the slack. Godwin, it's on the board.
Sure.
And Moore was able to do that. Very nice job there in the second half. I still think he's getting back into his rhythm. I think he'll be in it now. There were some moments in Missouri where it's ooh, that looked bad, or ooh, that guy fell into him. That's not, Nothing like in Austin. I thought that was a clean game for him. No scary moments. So I think come Wednesday against Georgia, I'm looking for him to be ready to unleash what we've seen through the first part of the season.
So, Bob, you did just get back from over at the Lloyd Noble Center. Oklahoma will be headed out on Tuesday for their first round game in the SEC Tournament at Bridgestone Arena against Georgia, a team that they have been familiar with, obviously losing in Athens this year, 72-65. Just, did you feel a little bit of an overtone of finally they can breathe a little bit, even though there are some important stretches here with the SEC Tournament?
Right? That's kind of now I feel we're in the exact same position as last season. When they beat Cincinnati in overtime, they got the 20th win. You're like, you're in. You can breathe. You can get comfortable. What they do? They got blown out by Texas.
Sure.
Soares got hurt again. They lost TCU badly in the tournament. So it's like,
that was the first time I tried to fire Porter Moser. The second time was a couple weeks ago. I'm an idiot.
So now you've played with that sense of urgency to get to 19-12, to get to 6 conference wins. But now you're at the point you can't be too comfortable. The bid stealers are going to be out there. You control it. You put a great effort against the Bulldogs on Wednesday night. Then you can finally rest comfortably.
They got a long ways to go, but if you're an Oklahoma basketball fan, you might be cheering for St. Mary's on Monday night against Pepperdine, who's won their first 2 games of the West Coast Conference Tournament.
You had a couple good things. You had Drake do what it needed to do,
say.
And Duke took care of North Carolina. So yes,
the Tar Heels going to Tuesday misery over in Charlotte at the ACC tournament. I don't know if you've seen the schedule for that, but there's some bad basketball being played in the ACC. You did come back from Porter, though. They were talking about the big win over the weekend at Texas. First time to get kind of that monkey off the back if you're Porter Moser.
He never wanted to talk about it, but he's 1-7. He's got that win.
He's got that one win, and it was a massive win. Here is Porter Moser, and I believe Jalen Moore talking about moving forward off the Texas win.
Well, I think he told you, I don't know how many, 2-3 weeks ago, we were talking about like our mission statement. We want to play better basketball to win games to get in the NCAA tournament. And you look at this 5-game stretch, we're 3-2, and the 2 losses are against ranked teams right at the buzzer. So we've played really good basketball. We're playing together, we're playing tough, we're believing, and I think that's what you want. You want to be playing your best basketball in February and March. And besides the SEC, name another group that has a 5-game stretches like you get in the SEC. And so we're playing better basketball. I think we had 5 turnovers at Texas. I mean, just really good, a lot of things to play better basketball. And better basketball doesn't meaning making all your shots all the time. And that's why we had a lot of good basketball plays that were winning plays that might not show up in the box score at the Texas game. But it's been huge for us to keep believing, for us to keep coming out here in front of everybody and just keep saying, man, we still got a path. We're still getting better. We're right there. And to see the guys get some results with their resiliency is exactly where we want to be going into this tournament.
That do whatever, we're going to weather the storm, and we're always going to stay together and come in the next day, regardless if it's a win, loss, whatever anyone says. We're going to always come in and come in as a hard-working team and as the most connected team, and that's what I've learned about this team, that we're the most connected and most resilient team.
We just played a great round of basketball throughout the whole 40 minutes, very connected, and we've all put the work in, so just trusting our work and believing in each other, I think has helped us a lot.
Jeremiah Fears, last 6 games for the true freshman, 20.7 points, 4.8 rebounds, 5.7 assists.
He's back.
From Mike Houck, the Oklahoma Sports Athletic Administrator or Sports Information Director. Him and Cooper Flagg, the only 2 freshmen right now to average 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1.5 steals a game. He's had a phenomenal year.
He really has, and now he gets to try to right a wrong from Athens, where that was the first one where like, 2 points. I think it was 1 of 11 from the floor. That was when you start to like, man, this freshman wall is hitting right now. SEC is being physical with him. He's not ready for it. He doesn't want it. And obviously that switch got flipped later on in the season. I think he's chomping at the bit to get a second crack at the Dogs.
It's a big one coming up on Wednesday. Going back into Saturday, though, in Austin, you had Glenn Taylor Jr. in the first half, 10 points, 4 for 5 from the field, 2 for 2 from behind the arc, 18 minutes. And Luke Northweather, 10 points, didn't miss a shot, 22 minutes, 5 rebounds, the most rebounds that he had grabbed since February 4th. They were phenomenal. And for Oklahoma to be a team that could make some noise over in Nashville, or you get into the NCAA tournament, they're going to need a little bit of everybody, right, with the injury news to Sam Godwin.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know if Godwin's ever going to realistically have a chance to play. But what he is doing is he's coaching up Luke the entire time. It's something Porter mentioned, something Jalen mentioned today. Just his presence on the bench Saturday and keeping Luke motivated, keeping him positive, pumped up, because you can tell that is a daily battle with Northweather. You missed your first shot, so what?
Yeah.
Keep shooting. Like, you didn't get that first rebound, that's okay. Keep battling. And he had that mindset. A couple of and ones. That might have been the first ones he's had the entire season.
And how about finishing the second half of the and one, making the free throws as well?
That was a different Luke. If you could get that Luke for Nashville, you might be able to make a little mini run here.
You got something to work with. We'll get into Oklahoma's SEC tournament schedule coming up, but Porter Moser did talk about getting what they got out of Glenn Taylor Jr. there in the first half, and then obviously Luke Northweather as well. And here it is from Monday afternoon.
Huge to have Luke come in and give you 10. If you would have said Luke is going to come in off the bench, give you 10, and not take a 3, I would have said, I don't know what I've said that I can say on air, but I think he was, aggressive, confident, got offensive rebounds, finished on there. Luke was great. Glenn Taylor, he came off in the second shift and got us 10. Kobe came off the second shift, had 5 assists, I think, in the first half. Mo's been second shift, and he stepped up, and he made a lot of energy plays. Dayton constantly has been that guy. So you need that. I've said it a lot. To win in this league, you've got to have multiple guys producing. And it's just, Jalen and Jeremiah have been there, and they both made big plays, in that game. But to have that second shift step up when those guys scoring wasn't there to their averages was really a confidence boost that can take us into this tournament. And you need all hands on deck in this league in February, March, and great boost with those guys.
First off, just to speak on that, they had an amazing game. Just to see them go out there and have a great impact on the game, that was amazing. And just moving forward, it's going to be important for them to bring that same energy and same level of competitiveness and being able to pay attention to details. That's going to be important coming into the next game.
Bob, as you said, they've been in this spot before, right? They've been somewhat in this spot just in terms of you're on the bubble or you're inside the bubble or outside the bubble. This time they're inside the bubble, which is good news. Getting that win over Texas, I think it was 69% as of Saturday night with Joe Lenardi. Yep. We'll see. Now, there has to be a little bit of middle toughness, right, that goes into what this week is in Nashville with Georgia coming up and then possibly a rematch with number 6 Kentucky, or the 6th seed Kentucky on Thursday.
I think what might have helped this team is that they've known there were at points this year where they weren't in the tournament.
Sure.
It's something, if you remember last March, something Porter mentioned, is they were in the tournament every single day until Selection Sunday. It's like they always thought they were in until they weren't.
Sure.
This last 3-4 weeks, they've known, we're not in unless we change something. And so that sense of urgency has been there throughout. Now it's about solidifying everything. It's like you've done what you needed to do. You've shown you're a much different team than what you were at Auburn and at Florida and at Missouri. But can you go to that next step? And I actually like the way the draw worked out, not in terms of matchups and size and things like that, but I like that it wasn't Arkansas or Vanderbilt, a team you've already beaten.
Sure.
I like that it was Georgia, a team that you kind of carried over that A&M collapse a little bit into Athens, and now you can get another win against another tournament team. Something Porter's been mentioning repeatedly, how many wins they have against the rest of the field. So now you get Georgia, and obviously Newell's going to be tough, and that's not going to be an easy game. But if you get that one, it's another thing to bank and say, we beat another tournament team.
Let's hear from Porter Moser as well as Jalen Moore about the middle edge going into Nashville.
You do your research on everything in the portal, but I think some of the resilience comes with coming together, and guys that you try to get guys that have won, guys that are chasing that winning, like Jalen Moore's. We've talked about his quest to get in. Really thought that this team was resilient starting in the summer, going through it the fall. But then early on, I really saw it in the Bahamas. And then we saw it get cracked a little bit, at Florida, at Alabama. We've talked about all this, at Auburn. And what we've really retained back is we've been able to fight back. Even in the second half, Texas took I think a 5-point lead or whatever it was to fight back and then have us take a 5-point lead. Or 6-point lead. So that's the resiliency you need to keep fighting back over and over and over. And I can just see these last 5-6 games, we've regained that back, and that's really, really good news for us.
Jalen, you've had this sense of urgency the last couple of weeks. Is last year a reminder that you can never get too comfortable this time of year?
For sure. You can never get too comfortable because, this time of year is the most important time of the year, especially when it comes to conference tournaments and then the NCAA tournament. So just coming in and being on it and paying attention to every little detail and bringing the focus every day is important around this time, and we've learned that.
Oklahoma now heads into the SEC tournament. Your schedule on Wednesday for the opening round.
It's late one.
It says 8:30. We'll see about that. I know how these things go. South Carolina, Arkansas opens up the day at noon. Texas, number 13 seed, takes on Vanderbilt. The 12 seed at 2:30. LSU, Mississippi State. Mississippi State not playing well going into Nashville at 6 o'clock. And then OU, Georgia. As we said earlier, Oklahoma played Georgia on January 11th. Asa Newell and Dakota LeFew went each for 15 points. Jalen Moore had 17. Duke Miles, Kobe Elvis had 14. The big numbers there, though, the free throw disparity.
Yes.
Georgia shoots 27 to 37. Oklahoma just goes to the free throw line 9 times, as well as bench points. Georgia outscored Oklahoma 28-13. You feel a little bit better about this bench going into this game, obviously, with what you saw on Saturday in Austin. Another big stat coming out of Austin on Saturday. First time around, they had turned the ball over 18 times on Saturday to go on the road against a Texas team that is talented in the backcourt to only turn the ball over 5 times. Incredible.
Again, it's what Porter's been trying to preach about playing your best basketball at this time of year. And you go back to Georgia. It's funny. You mentioned the bench points, and then you said Kobe had 14 points.
Right.
Oh, that's right. He was a starter.
Sure.
He doesn't start anymore. And give credit to him.
He's played well.
He figured it out these last 3-4 weeks. How do I come off the bench and be effective? Sometimes it's not scoring. Although he's had some nice scoring games, but those 5 assists in the first half, that was another thing that kept that team afloat before Fears and Moores could get going there in the second half. So as Jalen and Porter all attested to, they're a much different team than January. So is Georgia. Bulldogs have won 4 in a row. They beat Florida. Sure. Like, they played their way to where they're not even worried about the bubble going into this week. So 2 teams playing at a very high level. Should be a fun one, even if it starts like around 9 o'clock at night.
I want to say 2 or 3 of those Kobe Elvis assists too were during that period where it was starting to get a little bit tight, just in terms of Texas, I think, had built the lead to 7 or 8, and Oklahoma just seemed like they kept responding, but Texas was getting buckets on the other end. It seems like the Jordan Pope kid, he would love to play against Oklahoma. He had 21 on Saturday night. I think averages like 25 against Oklahoma. So there we are. That's where everything stands. And, as we move into this, I guess, postseason portion of the schedule, into the SEC tournament, I think that, the one thing that you can say is, a couple weeks ago, pretty vocal about Porter Moser and the job that they were doing, where they were coming out of their 4-game stretch, where they were just simply getting their ass kicked every night. He's done a really good job with keeping this group together and getting to the point here over the last 5, particularly, where you are 3-2, but they played really, really well in those 2 losses by a combined 4 points.
Yeah, and that's where it's hard to look at some of these bubble teams and who they're going up against.
Sure.
And saying, well, why should that win against a quad 3 team bump them ahead of OU when OU lost by 1 point to Kentucky and then just a couple to Ole Miss? And, you see how that bracket works out. We're not saying revenge weekend. We're not labeling that. But if you can get by Georgia, you got Kentucky on Thursday. If you want to stop Ortega, you want to show him that you can actually do it, you might get your chance.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in the SEC tournament, because I think when you look through the bracket and Ole Miss, A&M, Missouri, Kentucky are waiting in the wings in that first bye, then the double bye, the big boys. Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama. Florida was incredible at the end of the year. Obviously, Alabama going on the road and winning at Auburn. They're ready to go for March, it seems. and then Auburn and Tennessee. They just seem to be the constant in this conference.
Yeah, this week should be fun because the first round is about the bubble teams.
Sure.
Even I don't know if you still consider Arkansas another team that did a great job of playing its way in during this last week. But Arkansas, Texas, OU, what are they going to do? How are someone like Vanderbilt going to respond? That was a very flat week for them. But now it's in Nashville. How big of a home crowd are they going to have? And then as it progresses, it's about seeding. It's all about NCAA tournament seeding. There have been teams. You mentioned Mississippi State. We'll mention Missouri, losers for their last 5. Can they turn that switch back on? It's almost like they let off the gas, knowing it's like we're solidly in the tournament. Let's breathe a little bit, and they did. Now they got to get back playing at a very high level.
They were trying to get a double bye, and all of a sudden they're playing on Thursday now as the number 7 seed, talking about Missouri. All right, win Wednesday night. I think you can move yourself out of the Dayton experience.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Even with some bid Steelers out there, I think you would be a firm 10, maybe even 11 if that's how I don't know if it's going to be the last 4 in will be 11 seeds or 12 seeds. But I think you can beat Georgia, add another quad 1, another quality victory to your resume, and then you won't have to worry about going to Dayton.
That would be a beautiful thing. All right, we'll cover all the bases here. If they do lose, probably still feel good about it, but you're going to have a couple sleepless nights going into Sunday.
You'll be sweating it out. You'll be hoping for chalk across the board. No NC State or Oregon from last year. You need the teams to dominate. You're going to look at someone like Memphis. No hiccups, Memphis. Take care of business. You just want it to be as boring of a week as humanly possible.
Keep your hands to yourself, North Texas, all right? That's going to do it. Oklahoma basketball. Feels good to talk about some positivity here. It seems like it's within grasping distance of making the NCAA tournament, which would mean the world to this program at the point that they've been at here over the last month or so.
When you were 16-10 and when you had the 5-game losing streak with the LSU collapse and the Florida no-show to come this far that quickly, go ahead and try to enjoy it, have some fun, and keep the run going.
Thank you, Bob. We'll flip over and bring in George Stoya to talk about the OU women and their run through the SEC tournament in Greenville next. And we now welcome in George Stoya. George, Oklahoma has about a week off now. It's kind of weird that in the SEC tournament, obviously, it was a fantastic run. If Jenny Baranczyk needs to get anything done around the house, I'm sure that she could. Maybe have you over and hang a picture if you need to.
Yeah. Definitely.
Maybe that or a TV, something like that.
Yeah, I could definitely do that. I think I would be very good at that. But
it's kind of a good run. Really good run, though, in Greenville.
Yeah, look, I think that they did what they needed to do to get that number 3 seed. We kind of talked about that. They were a lock to host a regional heading into the tournament. Now it feels like they're a lock at that number 3 spot. And look, I thought that they obviously played well against Georgia. Well, actually, they didn't play great against Georgia, but did enough to be in control of that game. And really, the Kentucky game, I thought that we saw them play some of their best basketball, arguably their best win of the season. They were phenomenal down the stretch of that fourth quarter. I know we watched the game here. And then the South Carolina game is what it is. Look, that's a team that you lost to by 41 earlier this year. And really, you hung in there with them. I think it was a 14-2 run to end the first half that kind of really did them in. They cut it down to, was it 8 in the third quarter?
I believe it was 10 because South Carolina never never led by less than double digits the entirety of the second half. They did get it down to 10 at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah, look, they just didn't shoot the ball very well in the first half. 2 for 15 from the 3-point range, and we've talked about it on here, Eddie. When they're not shooting well from 3, they just don't play as well. And Raegan Beers, the reality is she didn't have her best game, and part of that is South Carolina, just has some girls that can really match up well with her, and they doubled her in the post and made it kind of a tough night for her. And she picked up, I think she had 4 fouls in the third quarter. So, she also had to sit on the bench for some time.
After putting up 44 points and 19 rebounds in Oklahoma's first 2 wins over in Greenville, a 70-52 win over Georgia in which she had 22 points and 8 rebounds, 3 blocks, and then backed that up against the phenomenal performance against Kentucky, 20 points, 11 rebounds in the 69-65 win. An oddity in that game as well. Oklahoma did not shoot the ball well against Kentucky.
No.
Kentucky actually shot the ball worse from behind the arc, 4 for 23. Georgia Abor with 29 points. But a good stat coming out of that game from Tyler Neal and Brian Brinkley on the radio broadcast. 30.6% was what they shot against number 5 seed Kentucky. That was the lowest percentage that they'd shot in a win since 1996.
That's crazy. I'd not heard that stat. That's a wild stat. I mean, it just tells you, too, they were really good, I think, from the free throw line in that game. And then, they hit some big shots late. Like, I think
19 for 20 against Kentucky from the free
Yeah, I mean, they were unbelievable from the free throw line. And then, they just made some big stops late in the game, and then they made some big shots, too.
Just 13 turnovers against Kentucky as well, compared to the 16 turnovers that South Carolina scored 22 points off of. 5
even
of those
16?
coming in the first quarter.
Yeah, even 16, though, Eddie. I mean, we were talking earlier this year.
Yeah.
29 against.
Yeah, you were winning games against Louisville with what was it, 28, 27 turnovers?
So, they've limited those down. And again, like I said, the South Carolina game, look, South Carolina, we were just talking in the office, they may not lose another game the rest of the season. It looks like they're going to be the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. I mean, they are a juggernaut. So there's no shame in that. And again, like I said, they were in the game at times, and certainly South Carolina had to play well to beat them. So I still think Oklahoma feels good about where they're at. I think the tough part, Eddie, is, like you said, they have a week off.
Sure.
And I think that this group would love to get back on the court and play this week because they have been playing some of their best basketball of the season. And, after a tough loss like that, I feel like you'd want to get back on and bounce back. So Jenny Baranczyk and her coaching staff have quite the task this week of keeping her team focused. Not to say they're not going to be focused, but it's still tough having a whole week off before you play again.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be tough. 25 wins for the third time in 4 seasons under Jenny Baranczyk. Her next win, I believe, will actually be her 100th win, which would be kind of cool if that were to happen just about a mile down the road from here on Campus Quarter. That's kind of where the next step is. You're awaiting the announcement coming up on when the selection show comes,
Sunday.
Hearing their name, and then obviously who's going to be coming to Norman.
Yeah, right now they're projected as a 3 seed, going up against Gonzaga in the first round. And I can't tell you I know much about Gonzaga, but I think that they're probably a pretty decent squad. And then if they were to win that game, they'd play the winner of Michigan State or UNLV. And obviously Michigan State's had a really good year. They've got some really good young talent, so I feel like that would be a tough test for them. But again, it feels like to me, Eddie, there is a good chance, or this is their best chance under Jenny Baranczyk for them to reach the Sweet 16.
It would seem for that to happen. Obviously, you'll be playing those, the 2 games to get through the first and second round would be in Norman, but limit turnovers, do what they've done from the free throw line, and then obviously shoot the ball a little bit better. Peyton Verhulst had a little bit of a bounce back after just 13 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks against Kentucky. That sounds like a complete stat line, but obviously you can shoot better from behind the arc. I believe 1 for 8 against Kentucky.
Yeah, you really go as Peyton Verhulst goes, because I think that Raegan Beers will bounce back, and obviously teams will key in on her, but she's going to get hers. I think South Carolina was just an off game, and like I said, a bad matchup. But Raegan's going to get hers. You need Peyton Verhulst to kind of carry that group from the 3-point line. And then the other one, Eddie, that I'll say that I think can be an X factor that you really want to see more out of in the NCAA tournament is Lexi Keys.
Yeah.
Lexi was one of their best players a year ago, and now she's in a different role coming off the bench. She just hasn't been as sharp lately in terms of shooting the ball, and that's what she's in there to do is make 3-pointers, and she just hasn't been as good from beyond the arc, and she wasn't very good in the SEC tournament. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it just felt like there were some open chances, and she wasn't able to knock them down. So if you can get her going, I think you've got a really good chance, because it feels like everybody else is kind of elevated their game. Even Raina Scott had a really good performance against South Carolina. I thought Tot came in and actually played pretty well in some of the minutes that she had in the SEC tournament. So I think that you're getting some good play. Liz Scott, I thought, was really good in the South Carolina game. But if you can get Lexi Keys going, she comes in and hits a couple big threes for you, you feel really good about this group.
Kind of seems like the national narrative that will be out there with Jenny Baranczyk's crew going into the NCAA tournament is the fact that they have won 9 of 10. The 9-game winning streak to end the regular season. Obviously, the 2 games in Greenville tied the longest streak under Jenny Baranczyk. Obviously, the school record, long ways from that, was 20 games. Obviously, that came to an end with the loss to South Carolina, but like we said at the beginning, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to lose to South Carolina here in the month of March,
And
including Texas in the
Yeah.
SEC championship.
And I was going to say it feels like right now there's about maybe 6 teams that I would say could win the national title, which is actually quite a lot for women's basketball
Sure.
right now. But South Carolina, I think Texas didn't play very well, but they have the talent.
No doubt.
UCLA and USC out of the Big Ten are playing really good basketball right now, and obviously Juju Watkins probably going to win National Player of the Year. And then you have UConn,
Yeah.
who I think's in that same mix. They're playing really well right now.
Probably throw Hannah Hidalgo and Notre
Yep.
Dame in the mix as well.
No, and they haven't played as well.
They haven't been playing well.
NC State's playing good basketball.
Duke just won the ACC championship.
Duke is playing. The ACC is a curious conference, and that's why you look at OU's bracket right now. If they were to make the Sweet 16, they'd likely face NC State. I think Oklahoma could beat NC State. I think
We
it would be a
watched little
really
bit
good
of them,
matchup.
last week, I think, in the semifinal.
Yeah, and then if they were to win that game in the Elite Eight, they'd probably face USC, who's the 1 seed in their bracket right now. And you'd pick USC in that game, but you never know. You don't draw South Carolina. That's the
Sure.
big thing to know.
Sure. Hey, can't have a problem with that. One person that we did meet over the course of Oklahoma stay in Greenville might be our new king here on the Hoops Report, Mr. Beers, Ike Beers, Reagan's father.
Oh, man.
Electric
Yeah.
on the television.
I'm hoping to speak with him this week, actually.
That'd
Maybe
be
write a little
fantastic.
feature story before the NCAA tournament and kind of get to know his story. But, man, electric guy.
Absolutely.
He's a police officer in Lakewood, Colorado.
Okay.
So, which checks out. Like,
Yeah.
you look at him, you're like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that makes sense. But
I didn't realize that Raegan Beers went to Valor Christian, obviously
Yep.
the school that is responsible for Gavin Sawchuk, Gabe Sawchuk on the Oklahoma football team.
Christian McCaffrey.
Christian
McCaffrey, the Valor Christian, they've produced some of the best athletes in the country. Like
Really?
over the last 10 to 20 years. It
awesome.
is like a premier school in the Denver area. So no surprise there. But yeah, hoping to talk to Mr. Beers this week and kind of get their story. But Raegan, last year Raegan really, became a kind of a superstar in the NCAA tournament. Helping Oregon State. What they make the Elite Eight
Yeah, I
last
believe
year.
so.
So, she thrives in these big games, and she's kind of gonna be kind of their workhorse, over the next few weeks.
No doubt. It's good to talk about positive things around the Oklahoma basketball program. Obviously, as we talked about with Bob, headed into the SEC tournament in Nashville. What'd you make of the Texas game? I know we just heard Bob's thoughts.
Awesome. You'd love the fight of this group because I feel like we've sat up here, for weeks now and kind of counted this group out and said,
Sure.
oh, they got to win this game. And they've won the last few weeks. They are legitimately playing their best basketball of the season. I think maybe outside of, at the beginning of the year when they had some of those big non-con wins, but you love the grittiness of this group. I mean, you got guys, with Sam Godwin out, stepping up, Glenn Taylor out of nowhere,
Unbelievable.
Luke
To get-
Northweather.
To get 20 out of those guys on Saturday night.
And to just go win and look, I know Texas isn't great this year, but to go on the road in a do or die game against your rival, which Porter Moser's never beaten, to win that game, I think says a lot about the heart and soul of this basketball team.
We'll see where it goes. It's such a crazy experience. You can't help but just kind of enjoy the ride that you're on in Oklahoma.
Every year on the bubble, man.
They're in contention to make
Yeah.
an NCAA tournament, which, there's been some pretty low moments here over the last month and a half. And for them to get to that point, I don't know. You just kind of take it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's
I
been
just
kinda
hope there's
fun.
not another heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Come bubble.
Yeah.
It feels like every year they're right there.
We'll see. They need a little. I don't want to say they need a little bit of help, but certainly winning on
Wednesday,
night,
I mean, yeah.
that would go.
Winning,
a long
you're
way.
in, I think.
I think so too. All right, that's going to do it for a Hoops Report. Thank you to Bob. Thank you to George for stopping by, and we will catch up with you next week in, I guess, what will be wake of a selection show coming up on Sunday, and seeing where who's coming to Norman for the women's side, and then obviously, hopefully, where Oklahoma's headed. So for George and Bob, I'm Eddie. We'll see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.